Have you ever been caught in a conversation that leaves you drained or frustrated? Those moments where no matter what you say, the negativity just keeps swirling around you. These types of conversations aren't just uncomfortable. They can impact your mental and emotional well-being. Whether in the workplace, among friends, or within your family, toxic talk can create an unproductive and harmful environment. And avoiding toxic talk is crucial because it helps maintain healthy, positive relationships. In your personal life, it can keep your connections strong and supportive. In your professional life, it can prevent unnecessary conflict, foster better collaboration, and even boost productivity. In this video, we'll share 5 practical strategies for avoiding toxic talk. Now, these strategies are not magic, but will help you set boundaries, practice active listening, be mindful of your language, focus on solutions rather than problems, and know when to walk away. By the end of this video, you'll have the tools you need to protect your peace and promote more positive, constructive conversations. Toxic talk is more than just a bad conversation. It's a pattern of negative, harmful, and often repetitive interactions that can sap your energy, strain your relationships, and create an overall negative atmosphere. Unlike constructive criticism or healthy debates, toxic talk doesn't aim to solve problems or build understanding. It tends to spread negativity and drag everyone involved down. You've likely encountered toxic talk in various forms. It might be the coworker who constantly complains about everything but never seeks a solution, or a friend who gossips about others, spreading rumors and negativity, or it could even be someone who always is quick to criticize, never offering anything positive or constructive. These conversations often feel like a never-ending cycle of negativity with no clear resolution in sight. And the effects of toxic talk can be profound. Mentally, it can leave you feeling drained, stressed, and even anxious. When you're constantly exposed to this kind of negativity, it can start to take a toll on your mental health, leading to feelings of frustration or even burnout. In relationships, toxic talk can erode trust and understanding, creating distance between you and others. Over time, it can sour even the strongest relationships, making it challenging to maintain healthy, positive connections. Our first strategy is setting boundaries, one of the most effective ways to prevent toxic talk from taking over your conversations. You see, boundaries help define what is and isn't acceptable in your interactions with others. By establishing clear limits, you can protect yourself from being pulled into harmful discussions that drain your energy and affect your well-being. So, how do you set these boundaries in a polite and firm way? Well, here are a few strategies. Number 1, be clear and direct. When you sense a conversation is heading into a toxic territory, be upfront about your discomfort. Letting the other person know you'd prefer not to engage in negative talk is okay. For example, you might say, "I'd rather focus on positive solutions than dwelling on this issue." Number 2, redirect the conversation. Instead of shutting down the conversation entirely, try redirecting it to a more positive or constructive topic. If someone is complaining, you could say, "I hear what you're saying, but how about we brainstorm ways to fix the situation?" Number 3, use I statements. Frame your boundaries around your feelings and preferences, which can help prevent the other person from feeling attacked. For instance, say something like, "I find it more productive when we discuss what we can do differently instead of focusing on what went wrong." Number 4, be consistent. It's important to consistently enforce your boundaries. If you allow toxic talk to slide sometimes, it can send mixed signals. Make it a habit to gently but firmly steer conversations in a healthier direction every time. Let's say you're in a meeting and the discussion becomes a blame game. You might step in and say, "I understand we're frustrated, but I think it would be more helpful to focus on what we can do to improve the situation moving forward. Let's work on finding solutions." Active listening is a powerful tool in any conversation, especially when dealing with potentially toxic talk. You can better understand their perspective and underlying concerns by genuinely listening to the other person. Now, this doesn't just help you respond more thoughtfully, it can also diffuse negativity before it escalates into something more toxic. You see, when people feel genuinely heard, they're often less likely to continue down that negative path. When you actively listen, you're not just waiting for your turn to speak, you're engaged, empathetic, and focused on what the other person is saying. This approach allows you to identify the root of their concerns and gently guide the conversation more constructively. So, for example, suppose someone is venting about a frustrating situation. In that case, you might respond with something like, "It sounds like you're really upset about how that meeting went. What do you think could be done differently next time?" Now, this acknowledges their feelings and shifts the focus towards finding a solution. To foster a more positive dialogue, consider these tips for asking questions that promote constructive conversations. Number one, ask open-ended questions. Instead of asking questions that can be answered with a simple yes or no, ask open-ended questions that encourage the speaker to elaborate. For example, what do you think caused that issue? Or how do you think we can move forward from here? Number two, clarify and paraphrase. Show that you're actively listening by summarizing the speaker's words and asking for clarification if needed. Now, this can be as simple as saying, "So, what I'm hearing is that you're concerned about the way the project is being managed. Is that right?" This not only shows that you're paying attention, but also helps to clear up any misunderstandings. And three, encourage problem solving. Guide the conversation towards solutions by asking questions on the future rather than dwelling on past problems. For instance, what steps do you think we could take to avoid this happening again? Or how can we improve this situation together? You see, by practicing active listening and asking the right questions, you could transform a potentially toxic conversation into a productive one. And remember, the goal is not just to hear, but to understand and steer the dialogue toward a more positive and solution-oriented direction. One of the most effective ways to avoid toxic talk is to be mindful of your own language. Often we don't realize that our words can contribute to a negative atmosphere. By becoming more self-aware in how we communicate, we can prevent ourselves from unintentionally fueling toxic conversations. It's not just about what you say, but how you say it. You see, sometimes slipping into negative language is easy, especially when frustrated or stressed. However, with a little effort, you can rephrase these negative statements into more constructive ones that foster a positive dialogue. For example, here's a negative word. "This project is a disaster. We'll never meet the deadline." A constructive way would be, "We're facing some challenges with this project, but let's figure out how to stay on track for the deadline." Or another negative, "You never listen to my ideas." Constructive, "I feel like my ideas aren't being heard, and I'd love to find a way to communicate them more effectively." You see, by framing your language in this way, you reduce the potential for conflict and encourage a more solutions-oriented mindset in those around you. One of the most powerful ways to influence the tone of a conversation is to lead by example. When you consistently maintain a positive, respectful tone, others are more likely to follow suit. This doesn't mean you have to be overly cheerful or avoid tough topics. It's about approaching discussions with an attitude of constructive engagement rather than criticism. For instance, if a meeting starts to veer into negativity, you might say, "I hear that there are concerns, and I think it's important we address them. How can we approach this in a way that leads to positive outcomes?" This sets the tone for a more productive conversation. You see, by being mindful of your language and leading with a positive tone can significantly influence the quality of your interactions. Remember, the way you communicate sets the standard for others and can be the key to transforming toxic talk into constructive dialogue. It is easy to get caught up in complaining about problems, but this often leads to a cycle of negativity without any progress. And one of the most effective strategies to avoid toxic talk is to consciously shift the focus from the problem itself to finding a solution. You see, when you move the conversation towards problem solving, you reduce negativity and create a more productive and empowering environment. So to guide a conversation from complaining to problem solving, consider these techniques. Number one, acknowledge the issue, then pivot. It's important to validate the other person's feelings by acknowledging the problem, but not dwelling on it. Once you've acknowledged it, gently pivot the conversation towards finding a solution. For example, you might say, "I understand this is frustrating. What can we do to improve the situation?" Number two, ask solution-oriented questions. Encourage the other person to think about what can be done rather than what went wrong. Ask questions like, what do you think could be done differently next time? Or how can we make sure this doesn't happen again? You see, these types of questions naturally lead the conversation towards constructive outcomes. And number 3, encourage collaborative problem solving. In a group setting, suggest brainstorming solutions together. This not only shifts the focus away from the problem, but also fosters a sense of teamwork. You could say, let's all think of some ideas to tackle this challenge. Everyone's input is valuable. Imagine you're in a team meeting where everyone is frustrated about a project being behind schedule. The conversation starts to spiral into blame and complaints about the delayed project. Now, here's how you could intervene. I can see that this situation is really challenging and it's important we address it. Instead of focusing on what went wrong, let's figure out what steps to take right now to get back on track. Let's brainstorm some immediate actions we can take to move forward. You see, this approach acknowledges the frustration, but redirects the energy toward finding a solution, making the conversation more productive and less toxic. So, focusing on solutions instead of problems helps prevent toxic talk and empowers everyone involved to take action. By guiding conversations toward constructive outcomes, you can create a more positive and results-oriented environment. While many strategies can help manage toxic talk, there are a few times when the best course of action is to walk away, which is our 5th strategy for dealing with toxic conversations. You see, recognizing when a conversation has crossed a line into being unproductive or harmful is crucial for protection of your well-being. If a discussion becomes overwhelmingly negative, personal, or repetitive, and no amount of redirection seems to help, it's a clear sign that continuing the conversation may do more harm than good. You see, walking away from a conversation doesn't mean you're giving up or being rude. In fact, it's a form of self-care and boundary setting. The key is to do it in a respectful and clear way, ensuring that you maintain your integrity while protecting your mental and emotional health. Before disengaging, take a moment to assess whether the conversation has any potential to turn constructive. If it's evident that the talk is spiraling into toxicity without a chance for resolution, it's time to consider stepping away. Now, the way you exit a conversation matters. Aim to be calm and composed, even if the other person is not. And this helps minimize potential backlash and keeps the situation from us escalating further. Now, here are a few phrases and strategies you can use to exit a toxic conversation gracefully. You may say, I think we've discussed this as much as we can right now. Let's take some time to cool off and we can revisit this later if needed. This approach acknowledges a conversation but suggests taking a break. Or you can say, I'm not comfortable with where this conversation is going, so I'm going to step away. We can talk about something else if you'd like. Now, this phrase clarifies that you're setting a boundary without shutting down communication entirely. And then you could say, I have to focus on something else right now, but we can discuss this at another time when we're both in a better frame of mind. Now, this provides a polite exit while leaving the door open for future discussions if appropriate. Or you could say, I appreciate your perspective, but I think it's best if we move on from this topic. Let's focus on something more positive. Ending on a positive note helps to diffuse any lingering tensions. Knowing when to walk away is vital to maintaining your mental and emotional well-being. It's okay to step back from a toxic conversation when necessary, and doing so with grace and respect ensures that you're protecting yourself without burning bridges. Remember, sometimes the best way to handle toxic talk is to remove yourself from it entirely. So let's quickly recap the 5 strategies we've discussed today for avoiding toxic talk. Number 1, set boundaries. Clearly define what is and isn't acceptable in your conversations to protect your peace. Number 2, practice active listening. Truly listen to others to understand their perspective and steer the conversation more positively. And number 3, be mindful of your own language. Use self-awareness to ensure your words contribute to constructive dialogue rather than negativity. And 4, focus on solutions, not problems. To create a more productive environment, shift the focus from complaining to problem solving. And number 5, know when to walk away. Recognize when a conversation is too toxic to continue and disengage respectfully to protect your well-being. You see, avoiding toxic talk isn't just about steering clear of negativity. It's about fostering healthier, more positive interactions in an in all areas of your life. By applying these strategies, you can create a more supportive and constructive communication environment, both personally and professionally. And I encourage you to take a moment to reflect on your communication habits. Are there any conversations in which you could apply these strategies? Remember, small changes can make a big difference in the quality of your interactions. And I'd love to hear from you. What strategies have you found helpful in avoiding toxic talk? Share your experiences or tips in the comment section below. Let's learn from one another. And if you're interested in improving your communication skills further, be sure to check out our other related videos, which we explore even more techniques for effective and positive communication. And I want to thank you for watching. See you in the next video.